Yo, the enemy's public, I gotta keep my eyes open. Pay attention, stop walking around like you blindfolded. This not the World Cup, but Nasir be kicking knowledge. This is the type of information you can never learn in college. It's time to fight back, it's no more trying to play it cool. We got interviews, podcasts, and got the latest news. So sit back and relax, we about to get it started. Earth is a canvas, and guess who's the con artist? They brainwashing us, the system corrupted. You are now rocking with the enemy's public. You are now rocking with the enemy's public. I said you are now rocking with the enemy's public. Hey.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. This evening, I want to present an interview of Assata Shakur in Cuba. She was telling her side of the story, and going to tap in, do a narrative, because again, like the other video that I did, this was an ambush. Assata Shakur is not a terrorist. She's not a murderer. She's not a bad person. She's a beautiful soul. She was a young woman who loved her people and got herself involved in organizations that helped her people. And they was targeted on the New Jersey Turnpike, but they want us to believe that a young woman was able to, after being shot herself, was able to disarm a New Jersey state trooper and shoot him multiple times, murdering him with his own gun. They want us to believe that about our sister. Peace to the brother Noble Nuth. Thanks for joining me. But they want us to believe this about our sister. See, before the term racial profiling was coined in the 90s, they've been doing it since the police existed when it came to us. And especially if we are organized and standing up and doing something about our condition. They didn't like when we defied their unlawful orders. We wasn't defying the law. Our people who organized were merely protecting themselves and our people. And again, when they see us organizing, automatically they start calling us everything that they are. Now, the United States commit terrorism all over the world, and they call people terrorists. I'm absolutely certain when they drop bombs on other nations, those people are terrified. If you're the only one dropping the bomb and you're dropping the most bombs on other nations because they have something that you want, more than likely a natural resource that the U.S. wants, they will drop bombs after using their propaganda machine to make the ruler of that nation look like a bad person. Meanwhile, the U.S. dropping all the bombs, but the nation that they're bombing and terrorizing, they're the terrorist. Of course, the propaganda machine here is going to beat the war drum to justify not going to war, but colonizing and committing a terrorist act on another nation. And I'm going to play this video of the sister of Assata Shakur telling her side of the story of what went on May 2nd, 1973, which will mark the 50th year on the ambush or of the ambush of the Black Liberation Army and Assata Shakur.
So my first question would be, what political ideology do you embrace at this time? Well, that's a wide question. But essentially, I'm an African woman who believes in freedom and justice, social justice, political justice, economic justice for all people. I believe in that oppressed people, wherever they are, have the right to self-determination. I believe that socialism is an integral part of building social justice on this planet. I believe that the priorities of this planet have to be completely changed. And instead of profit, instead of policies that destroy the earth, that destroy the water, that destroy human beings, I believe a policy that protects people, that makes people live in a community, a world community. That's what I believe. That's my basic political commitment at this moment.
And that's the problem they had with her and the Black Liberation Army. They organized our people and they helped our people. And this is not the sentiment of a terrorist. This is not the sentiment of a murderer, someone who wants not civil rights, but human rights for all people, but in particular, our people and other oppressed people.
I want to know, how did you arrive at this fight? Not physically, but what brought you to that conclusion and what brought you to Cuba? Well, what brought me to that conclusion was in the process of struggling, I also understood that part of struggling is learning, is studying. And my own experiences in the 60s led me to understand that it wasn't just enough to ask for a piece of the pie. Uh, that the whole liberation of oppressed people in the United States had to do not with climbing up some ladder to success, not for asking to be just like Rockefeller or just like DuPont or just like Ford, because that would only continue the oppression and exploitation of oppressed people in the United States, and specifically African people born and raised in the United States. So that I began to understand that more and more the condition of my people, my history was very much connected with other oppressed people, and I began to see that the same foot that was on the necks of the Vietnamese people, that was on the necks of all oppressed people on the planet, was the same foot that was on my neck. And so I began to understand that imperialism has to go. It is a poison that is killing people all over this world. And I became more and more active
And as I became more and more active, the government became more and more repressive. And in the 1960s, the Black Liberation Movement was the number one target of COINTELPRO. And the Black Panther Party specifically was targeted by J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI, and the CIA, and all of the repressive forces in the United States government.
Now, when the CIA and the FBI, when their assignments were done, they were assigned to our organizations to go in and neutralize, disrupt, and corrupt our organizations. They used people who look like us, agents who look like us, to go into our organizations and make them what they are today. These organizations they call gangs today were not gangs, they were made gangs. So you can put an American seal on all of these so-called gangs who they are rounding up and locking up because they're fighting on a lie created by J. Edgar Hoover in the counterintelligence program. They sent Negroes in to corrupt, disrupt, and destroy our organizations.
And so I was one of those young people who was targeted by COINTELPRO because I was an activist, because I was opposed to the United States government's policies, because I was opposed to racism. And so I ultimately had to go underground. I was ultimately captured uh, based on being charged with false charges. I was captured. I was shot with my hands in the air. I was shot in the back. I was tortured, beat.
Now, you have racist people who would say that Assata Shakur, after being shot multiple times, you heard the sister say she was shot in the back. But they want us to believe after being shot in the back, she was able to take a state trooper, take his gun, a New Jersey state trooper's gun, and murder him with it after being shot herself. They want us to believe that, and they're calling her a terrorist and a murderer because she was targeted right along with the brothers who belong to the Black Liberation Army, and they was going to murder them, but a police officer, a state police officer, ended up being killed as a result of them targeting them. Peace to my brother Brown's Flat Power God. Now, again, I said yesterday, this happened like a mile from where I grew up at. And I'm going to let her continue. I'm just going to tap in and do a narrative as she goes on.
I was spent 2 years in solitary confinement in men's prisons because of my political beliefs. I was spent 6.5 years in prison in the United States, and what I learned about prison in the United States, that it's a new form of plantation, it's a new form of slavery, it's the United States is becoming more and more a police state in which prisons are nothing more than a concentration camp.
Now, you see what's going on down in Georgia with the police facility, calling it Cop Land, Cop City. You see what's going on. This was years ago, what this sister is talking about, and it's coming to fruition today. They have acres. They're trying to build a Cop City, and because the people are opposed to it, the government has a problem with it. They are spending and putting too much money into law enforcement when the people who are charged with law enforcement are lawless. They can care less about the law. They care less about the Constitution of the United States, which It's not even worthy of wiping your backside with it. Yet they want us to just accept the fact that the police are more and more militarized today. You have fat, out of shape officers wearing tactical gear, knowing there's nothing tactical about them. The only thing they know how to do is shoot, but they are not, part of the SWAT team. They're the first two letters of SWAT, special weapons. But the and tactics part, most of these cats is wearing the tactical gear. There's nothing tactical about them. They're not in shape enough to be tactical. Peace to my brother, Your Talk Media.
Concentration camp. It's a euphemism to call what exists now in the United States prisons. They are concentration camps to contain people, to keep them from being productive, to keep them from having a say in their lives. And 1/3 of young black men right now are either in prison or under the so-called jurisdiction of the so-called criminal justice system. So I was one of those people, and lucky enough, I was part of a movement.
You notice she called it a criminal justice system. The only people in the United States who receive justice are the criminals, and the criminals are a part of the government.
And my movement helped to liberate me. So in 1979, after being sentenced by an all-white, convicted by an all-white jury, and sentenced to life in prison plus 33 years plus 30 days, I was able to escape in 1979. And in 1984, I was able to come to Cuba, and the Cuban people and the Cuban government welcomed me with open arms.
Everybody remember Malcolm. Nobody remember he started off red. Everybody remember Jack George after the blood of my eye. They didn't remember George before blood of my eye. What can we say to the community so they won't continue to abandon the young to a system that is corrupt?
What saved me from probably being either a puppet, a robot for that system, or being a drug addict, or just being destroyed by that system, was becoming involved, becoming politically involved, and studying. I will always say, and say to anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place, that being in our struggle has done more for me than I can ever do for the struggle of our people. So that I believe that anybody who wants to be sane and healthy on this planet has to understand that you cannot live at the bottom of a garbage can and be happy. In order to be happy, you have to start to remove the garbage. And that means becoming active, that means becoming conscious, that means becoming aware, and that means studying and struggling and loving and becoming people.
Peace to my brother
People who love
Hawkeye.
people instead of being people who are alienated from other people, who are being used by the government. We have to learn a new way of living. We have to build communities, build a sense of community, build a sense of freedom, our own space where we can sit in peace and love. And I think all of that is a process. If you don't grow, then you're going backwards. So I think that you start out bit by bit, and little by little, you work from wherever you are to do your bit to the liberation of oppressed people and to making this world somewhere that is livable.
We've heard a lot, and I've heard a lot from you in general when I was in the United States, of your clear support of the political prisoners. The questions that I haven't heard so clearly from other people is what about that million? You know, can you delineate between the political prisoners, which they say there's 100 political prisoners and prisoners of war, uh, them from the 1.5 million prisoners that they currently hold?
Both political prisoners and people who are victims of the political system are products of that repressive capitalist system. Uh, the difference between political prisoners and those who are victims of the politics of the United States government, the racist, at this point, almost fascist politics of the United States government, is that political prisoners are conscious. Political prisoners are conscious of the reasons for that oppression and are clearly struggling against the system. Mumia Abu Jamal is on death row, not just because he's an African man, but because he is an African man that is capable of politicizing all of the people in the United States about the realities of the United States. He's capable of pulling the sheep's clothing off of the wolf and exposing the United States government as the vicious, hungry, greedy wolf that it is. And so I believe that it is most important for anybody who believes in injustice, who believes that human beings have the right to be free, to struggle to free Mumia Abu Jamal, to struggle to free all political prisoners and prisoners of war, and to struggle for a new political, economic reality in the United States where people have the right to live, have the right to be free, have the right to be free from repression, from stop from being stopped and searched and thrown on the ground at will. I believe that it is important to free political prisoners so that we can all struggle to free ourselves.
Now, what I'm searching for is how important it was for you to receive support in that 2 year period that you was in jail.
I think that I was in prison 6.5 years. And support made all the difference in the world. And I think that as communities, we have to understand that our position cannot be the same as the U.S. government's position. What they're saying is that these people are in prison, forget them, throw them out. They're worthless, low-life human beings. We're saying that these are human beings that have been victimized. They might have problems, they might be unconscious, and it is our job as a community to reach out to them to say, we understand that you are a human being. We give you support, we give you love, we give you what we have, the knowledge that we have to share. I think that our communities have to be more and more involved in helping, embracing, educating, and providing support for those sisters and brothers who are in prison and preparing conditions so that they can come out and be useful not only to our communities but useful to our struggle for liberation. And I think that it's important for those sisters and brothers who are in prison to remember we are human beings. Do never let them dehumanize you. You in prison, you can be a father, you can be a mother, you can work to educate your children. In prison, you can work to educate yourself. Do not let anybody try to turn you into an animal. That those on the inside must understand that they are in there to grow. The United States government or the prisons cannot rehabilitate anybody, cannot educate anybody. They are criminals. How is a criminal going to rehabilitate somebody? So I think that we have got to educate ourselves and prepare ourselves to fight a repressive system, an oppressive system, and a system that smashes the human being to the point where people don't even remember how to take a walk, how to say good morning, how to smile at each other. We have to take this planet back from the beasts that are controlling it right now. I
Real
escaped
talk.
from prison in 1979. And since 1979, the population of women in prison has tripled. Tripled. It boggles my mind, and it should boggle everybody's mind who understands mathematics. Uh, More and more poor women, because there are no rich women, no rich people in prison. So you're dealing with poor women, you're dealing with poor mothers, you're dealing with African, Asian, Latin American, and indigenous women who are in those prisons are being dehumanized, just snatched up off the street, given all kinds of time. And
Real
I
talk,
think that
Dominique.
it
Real
is
talk.
important for women to be activists in dealing with women in prison and freeing women in prison and freeing women who are political prisoners, because there are quite a few women who are political prisoners. And I also think that the women's movement needs to deal with those women and to have outreach programs, support programs for those women who are in prison, to help them be united with their children, with their families. Because what is happening is there are a whole lot of children out there that have no mother, no father, that are being just thrown out into the street. So I say that if you call yourself a woman that identifies with the liberation women, then identify with the most oppressed, exploited women in the United States. I mean, because I'll be real with you. You know, one of the most, I mean, just raging pains that I had was being separated from my child, was being forbidden to hold her, to touch her, to breastfeed her. The conditions of women in prison in the United States is unbearable. I mean, I have seen women who have given birth and they have not been able to even see their children. Social workers can tell women if their children can visit them or not. I was in prisons where it was forbidden for children to visit. The Middlesex County workhouse where I was, it was.
The Middlesex County Workhouse, at the time she was there, it was right downtown in the city that I'm in right now. Before, in the 1980s, mid 80s, it moved to North Brunswick, New Jersey, about 2 or 3 miles from where I'm at now. But at the time she was there, it was right downtown, and we used to be able to go through there and actually see the prisoners out the window and everything at the time she was there.
It was pathetic. It tore your insides out. You see all these little children outside trying to scream and yell at their mothers. They couldn't see their mothers. It was the most frustrating thing, the most heartbreaking thing that I've ever seen. So I think that anybody who has any human sensibility, who has any commitment to women, needs to get involved in liberating women in prison, in providing support, education, job training, etc. for those sisters who are in prison. There's an effort to destroy our communities, to completely knock out any sense of community that we have. And so drugs, crack cocaine is being pumped up into our communities, and we do not have airplanes, yachts to bring that stuff in. It is being brought into our communities, and people are getting rich from it. And the same people that are getting rich, exploiting people all over the world, are getting rich, bringing cocaine, bringing drugs into the United States. And I think, and selling a kind of mentality that tells people you cannot function on this planet. So the
The same people who are bringing the drugs in by the boats, by the airplanes, or whatever method they're bringing in the drugs, are the same people who are lobbying against drugs and who are legislating laws that make crack cocaine worse than pure cocaine. And they were targeting us. It wasn't the war on drugs, it was the war of drugs. And you would do more time for selling crack than it was to sell pure cocaine. Why? Because of a status. Rich people did cocaine. Crack cocaine was made for poor people. Short high, but you got high. But it was a short high that kept you coming back for that high. And they criminalized crack cocaine more than they criminalized pure cocaine by status, by how much money you had, by proximity where you live at.
The only option you have is to go somewhere and drug out, get high, spend your whole life in
Salute to my brother, Prophet Levi. Thanks for coming through, brother. Salute to you.
In a cloud, a death cloud. So I think that we have to more and more understand that it's not the number of women in prison is not an isolated phenomena. It is a part and parcel of a policy to tell people we don't care if you have health care, we don't care if you have education, we don't care if you have access to social services, we don't care if you have any safety net. All we care about is, will you buy our sneakers? Will you buy our dope? Will you buy our junk? Will you buy our chains, gold chains, silver chains, human chains, whatever kind of chains, they want to put it on you. And so I say that we have got to get rid of that consumer mentality. We have got to get rid of that mentality of being high and wanting to be high. And we've got to stop letting people put it in our communities. I look in magazines, I don't care what magazine it is, if it's for people of color, they got cigarette ads in there, they got billboards with Joe Camel and every other body, trying to get us to get the mentality where we want to be hooked on something, where we can't live without something. And something that is detrimental to our health. So what we need to do is get rid of the million liquor stores in our community.
Salute to the wife, Mrs. The Enemy's Public. Salute to you, darling.
Get rid of the liquor ads, the cigarette ads.
Do you hear the call on the international community against the United States use of slave labor? Because I'm not hearing it inside the country.
Well, it's very hard to get the message out all over the world because the United States controls the media. And so we have to really work to let people know that in the United States, prisons are being turned into plantations. Mm-hmm. It's a new kind of plantation with a new kind of slave labor, but in my book, slave labor is slave labor. Okay. And so I think that we have to work to get that information out to people all over the world, because even though a lot of people understand that the United States government is an imperialist country, they do not understand how repressive, how racist, and how reactionary the United States is inside of the United States.
Within the United States, I feel
big facts, Prophet Levi. Big fact, brother.
Feel like the left have somehow not developed a consistent theory surrounding the incarceration of human beings. I mean, they would save whales, they will jump over, save a tree, but when it comes to saving my ass, it's a whole different question.
You know, when you say the left, I think if you don't deal with the issue of prisons today, you're being left out of the left. Essentially, that's just like being in Nazi Germany and not dealing with the fact that there are all these people in concentration camps. There are concentration camps in the United States right now, and I believe that it is immoral. I don't care who you are, what your
Rikers Island is a concentration camp. Sing Sing and all these other prisons are concentration camps.
Political beliefs are, whether you consider yourself left, whether you consider yourself progressive, whether you consider yourself part of the liberation movement of oppressed people, whatever your political beliefs are, if they are humanist political beliefs, then you have to deal with the question of people in prison, and you have to deal with the question of crime. You have to deal with the question of justice. But if we do not do it, then the right wing just runs with it and calls for law and law and order to them means just locking people up. It doesn't mean eliminating the conditions that cause people to be in prison. It means eliminating the people. I think that young people need to find ways they can get together. I think they need to understand that they need to struggle right where they are. Deal with the issues that are stabbing them in the side, in the back, in the head, and deal from there. And then build a movement, whether it's at your job, whether it's on your block, whether it's in the prison you are, whether it's in wherever you find yourself at. You start dealing with getting the foot off of your neck. And I think that young people, whether you're in college or whether you're in prison, you need to do what you need to do to make the next century belong to the people, because this century has been 100 years more of slavery.
Conditions ain't right for you to return home, and we miss you. What can those sisters do to support you?
Well, I think that my liberation from exile, because I have been liberated from the belly of the beast, has very much to do with the need for us as a people to call for amnesty, immediate amnesty for all political prisoners and prisoners of war. Because what happened? The FBI admitted that it had a COINTEL program to neutralize activists. And they neutralize them in all kinds of ways: assassination, false imprisonment, false charges, etc.
With that given, they admitted it and they so-called abolished it in the 1970s, which is a lie. It has other names like RICO, like Black Identity Extremist. They have other names that they use that is counterintelligence, and they have other devices that is counterintelligent, like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all of social media. And they'll use people like DJ Vlad, who will have these nitwits to come up on his platform, and he will ask them incriminating questions, and the idiots will answer the question and indict themselves And the police would use that footage to indict, try, and convict people who go on, in particular, entertainers who will go on these social media platforms and confess to crimes. We have to be mindful of our behavior when we are on social media. The only way they'll come after me is because of this type of work, aligning myself with a Assata Shakur, okay? Aligning myself with people that they deem not good for the United States domestic and foreign policy.
But they never admitted to who were the victims. Geronimo spent 27 years in prison
Peace to the brother, real lives.
Admitted.
You still haven't admitted it.
That's right. But there was enough evidence, and the evidence has been out there for years before he got out of prison. Dhoruba bin Wahad spent 19 years in prison. Those prisoners have been in there a million times longer than they should have. And that's not 1 minute. So I say that there has to be a movement for amnesty of the victims of COINTELPRO, and that those who are victimized, spied on, harassed, etc., need to be completely set free, exonerated, apologized to, and brought back to their communities. I think that movement is important, and it's important right now because the government's so-called Freedom of Information Act was a shame.
There's nothing free about it.
No, not at all.
Especially when they charge you for the paperwork, the Freedom of Information Act. If you go put in a FOIA request, they're going to charge you for every slice of that paper that you asked for. When it's taxpayers' money that pay for the paper, the whole entire agency, as a matter of fact, our taxpayers' dollars pay for, but they charge you for every page of, if you go and put in a FOIA request for example, if you want a discovery, or if you want the salaries of police officers, firemen, and whoever call themselves a public servant. If you put in a FOIA request, even for your case, if you have one, they want to charge you for that. And the information that's supposed to be free is not free. And those of us who willingly give pertinent information, if the information is too pertinent, they're going to shut you down for a week or two.
I'm telling you that I got a box, and that was one of my files, and there was 33, a great big box like this, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of papers, and 99% of it crossed out. How you gonna call that freedom of information?
Exactly. They cross out, they redact the very pertinent information, and they give you information that you don't even want. They redact the information that you really want, especially if it helps your case.
You know, so I think that we need to be serious about building a movement for amnesty right now for those political prisoners and prisoners of war. And I don't think yesterday it is too soon. I just want to say, sisters, I love you. I'm so proud. Go out and multiply yourselves. Go out and get another sister. Go out and talk to anybody and everybody that you can to raise people's consciousness and to build a huge movement, not only to free political prisoners, but to free all of our people from the prison that is the United States of America.
Peace to the family. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I'm going to do another presentation of our sister on Tuesday, May 2nd, which will mark 50 years since the ambush on the New Jersey Turnpike of the Black Liberation Army that resulted in a state trooper being killed and a brother who was a member of the Black Liberation Army. He was shot and killed also. And our sister, Assata Shakur, was shot in her back multiple times. But they want us to believe that after being shot, she was able to take a trained state trooper's gun, shoot and kill him after she was shot. They want us to believe that she was the aggressor when they pulled them over. They want us to believe that Assata Shakur and the brothers were the aggressor because a police officer got himself killed, which I believe was friendly fire, but they just blamed the sister. See, that's what happens. They'll blame the survivor. It's like when a police officer accosts somebody, they end up shooting somebody and killing them and charge the person they was with that person's murder when the cop shot them. It could be an unarmed young man or woman. If they're with the person that the cop shoot, they blame and they charge the person they're with their death. This is a so-called justice that they say they're giving our people, and which is not justice at all. Now, join me Tuesday. We're going to have an open panel because I didn't want this one to be an hour. I just wanted to do the presentation and get off. But Tuesday, I want to have an open panel and discuss, the 50th anniversary of the ambush on the New Jersey Turnpike. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm going to call it, the ambush on the New Jersey Turnpike. This is the Enemy's Public. I am Bro.Nasir. Before I go, I want to thank Dominique. I want to thank my brother Realize. I want to thank my lovely wife. Should have thanked her first, but forgive me, darling. I thank you. You make this happen. That's my executive producer, my wife. Thanks to Dominique. Thanks to Realize. Thanks to Hawkeye. Thanks to my brother Prophet Levi. Thanks to Brown's Flat Power God. Thanks to Greedy Vegan, Talk Your Talk Media. Thanks to Noble Nooth. This is the Enemy's Public. I am Bro.Nasir. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section. Peace.
Yo, the enemy's public, I gotta keep my eyes open. Pay attention, stop walking around like you blindfolded. This not the World Cup, but Nasir be kicking knowledge. This is the type of information you can never learn in college. It's time to fight back, it's no more trying to play it cool. We got interviews, podcasts, and got the latest news. So sit back and relax, we about to get it started. Earth is the canvas, and guess who's the con artist? They brainwashing us, the system corrupted. You are now rocking with the enemy's public. You are now rocking with the enemy's public. I said you are now rocking with the enemy's public. Hey.